Here comes your son! Here comes your son! And I say, it's all right!
In 1976, Eric Idle, fresh off the success of Monty Python and the Holy Grail, would host Saturday Night. The live would come later. He showed video sketches from his previous show, Rutland Weekend Television, which included a mockumentary about a Beatles parody called The Rutles, featuring the work of his musical collaborator, Neil Innes. Saturday Night's producer, Lorne Michaels, suggested that this sketch could be stretched out into a feature-length mock documentary. He teamed Idle up with the director of their taped sketches, Gary Weiss. And so, All You Need Is Cash was born. All You Need Is Cash, often referred to as just The Rutles, stars Eric Idle, Neil Innes, Ricky Fattar and John Halsey as the four Rutles: Dirk, Nasty, Stig and Barry. Idle also plays the unfortunate presenter of the documentary, narrating the rise to fame of this trailblazing 60s band. Whilst it's not the first ever mockumentary, it is one of the earliest feature-length comedy mockumentaries, and, amongst the Python-esque bizarreness, it still has the staple awkward comedy the genre would become known for. In my humble opinion though, the best jokes are the ones that poke fun at the Beatles' history, which, thankfully, is most of the jokes.
Their first album was made in 20 minutes. The second took even longer.
Their dedication to visually recreating key moments from the Beatles' careers is nothing short of impressive, and they integrate archive footage really well. I imagine a lot of the facts they were parodying would have been more obscure back in 1978, but then again, I'm not sure. The animation of the Yellow Submarine parody is really good too. Neil Innes' music is as spot on as the comedy. Much like the future mockumentary band Spinal Tap, the music is genuinely really enjoyable. I certainly lack any kind of musical expertise that would accurately describe how these songs sound so much like the Beatles, but it's fantastic.
Get up and go! Get up and go! Get up and go back home! Love life! Love life!
Innes does a great job at recreating Lennon's singing voice. It sounds just like him.
Almost feel love.
Personally, I didn't find Idle's multi-rolling distracting at all, especially as his roles outside of the narrator are rather small. The supporting cast is a combination of SNL alums, such as Gilda Radner, Bill Murray, John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd, and British comedians, such as Barry Cryer, and of course, fellow Python Michael Palin. Both Mick Jagger and Paul Simon appear as themselves. I remember reading somewhere that Idle just got Simon to talk about the Beatles and changed the names to Rutles. Mick Jagger is in as a bit more than Simon, and I don't know if Idle used the same technique with him. His then-wife Bianca Jagger also appears as Dirk's wife Martini, and Ronnie Wood plays a Hell's Angel. By far the best though is an appearance from Idle's bestie and biggest fan, George Harrison himself. He has a very small straight man part, and I'm not sure all viewers even noticed him, but it's lovely to see him. He was a big supporter of the Rutles from the very beginning, with Weiss saying, "I think he was the only one of the Beatles who really could see the irony of it all." Harrison would later say that, "The Rutles sort of liberated me from the Beatles in a way. It was the only thing I saw of those Beatles television shows they made. It was actually the best, funniest, and most scathing. But at the same time, it was done with the most love." Although it took a lot of time for McCartney to warm to the film, Lennon loved it so much that he refused to give back the videotape and soundtrack he was sent for approval, and Starr and Harrison even suggested that Idle and Innes join them in a sort of Beatles-Rutles supergroup. So, is this worth a watch if you're a Beatles fan? Absolutely! Even if the style of humour isn't your kind of thing, I think it's worth checking out. I think any Beatlemaniac would be able to find some enjoyment from all the niche jokes. The same goes if you're a Monty Python fan. It's slightly more down to earth, but it's certainly reminiscent of the iconic mockumentary sketches from Monty Python's Flying Circus. such as The Funniest Joke in the World, The Piranha Brothers, and Hell's Grannies. Obviously, if you're a fan of both, then you're in heaven. It's a funny little TV movie that demystified the Beatles, and I honestly don't think any of the Beatles parody sketches we've had over the years have even come close. And yes, that includes the Peter Serafinowicz show sketches. Even though his impressions are perfect, and that Ringo Goldfinger song is constantly stuck in my head.
Well, I've heard that it's gold. I've heard that it's a finger. Hey, don't shoot me. I'm just a bloody singer.
There are 2 different cuts of All You Need Is Cash, so do make sure that you watch the longer one for a few more funny moments. If this video gets 20 likes, I'll review the sequel, Can't Buy Me Lunch, to see if it can live up to the reputation of the original. If you want to see me review another self-referential Beatles comedy with a cameo from George, then you can watch my review of Ringo's self-titled variety special right here. See you soon!
So, Mr. Richards?